Hello, good evening everyone. So today we'll be looking into this year's UPSC CSE paper and I'll be taking up with all questions related to geography as well as environment. A very brief overview of this paper. When we look at paper from exam perspective in exam hall, it might look relatively little bit moderate to difficult level, but 2-3 major parameters. Last 1 year current affairs if we are following properly, if we have enough conceptual basis, and if we are looking into options, not specifically from the point of view of question, when you look into option and if you can eliminate or include some options, mostly questions can be decoded. So based on all these parameters, I would rate this paper to be moderate. So not that easy to crack most of the questions, and it is also not that difficult that we cannot answer most of the questions. And most of the topics which were asked, around 21-22 questions came from geography as well as environment. Around 14 questions came from our classes. So this is an comparative analysis of UPSC questions and our class notes, and we will be very briefly looking into these questions. So first question asked by UPSC or from environment and geography is with reference to Madhav National Park. So when we take up environmental classes, so this was there. So major national park tiger reserves, that is what we generally emphasize on. Very recently added national parks tiger reserves will be important from UPSC point of view. So it was declared as a tiger reserve in 2025 only. So that is a context that this question was asked. So basic current affairs if we are following, this question would be relatively an easy level question. So we can easily decode that 1 will be there in the options. So directly 2 and 3 and 3 will be taken out. So we have to check only second options and Sakya Sagar. So basic current affairs if we are following in detail, this fact also we would be able to guess it. The answer will be 1 and 2. So we refer such things in classes. So recently added Tiger Reserve Madhav National Park completely in Madhya Pradesh. He has given option as Rajasthan. It doesn't extend into Rajasthan. That's how we will be decoding. Then we have question 2 with reference to Andaman and Nicobar Island. So Indian geography, so relatively little conceptual question, but if we know Indian monsoon system and climate system, this question will also be relatively easy to moderate level. So Andaman Nicobar we know latitudinal and longitudinal extent, so 6 to 13 degrees north only, near to equator, so we will consider it to be humid tropical coastal climate, island coastal climate. True. It receives rainfall from both southwest and northeast. Outburst May 15th generally happens on Andaman coast. All those facts we would have referred very easily in class, so that statement will be true. So maximum precipitation December to May. So these seasons will be winter or summer season in India. India receives rainfall only during or mostly during monsoon season. So most precipitation during December to May will not be correct. Monsoon time lone most of the rainfall will be there. The answer will be 1 and 2. So that we would have discussed. So May 15th, Andaman and Nicobar, southwest monsoon season, monsoon, it will receive rainfall, not during December to May. Then we have a question on peninsular block of India. So we should know formation of peninsular plateau. So we know there are so many plateaus and hills within peninsular plateau, Aravallis, Vindhya, Satpura, Western, Eastern Ghats. If we can know about basics of how they form, this question will be relatively very simple. So submergence occurred on west coast due to tectonic activity. City of Dwarka, Rann of Kutch, we know they are undergoing local level subsidence. So residual mountain hills are there, especially generally in Eastern Ghats. Most of the rivers are flowing, they would have eroded most of the Eastern Ghats and they will be remaining as residual hills. River valleys, fast flowing rivers. We know between Himalayan and Peninsular River are considered relatively having mature and old stage, they relatively flow slow, not that fast compared to Himalayan rivers. So very deep V-shaped valleys generally we don't find in peninsular block. So that peninsular block formation and all the drainage system law, we would have referred all these points. So only 1, 2 will be correct, 3 will not be correct. Then a question was asked on Sagarmala, so Indian geography. In economic geography, when we discuss about ports, we will discuss about all these schemes. Some scheme is it, if it is in news, 2-3 basic facts are only very important, or otherwise conceptual understanding of that program will be important. So this Sagarmala project was there. So part of Ministry of Ports, port-led development, and facts are given. So when we look at these options, most of these options are not associated with facts. Conceptual basis thoni we will be able to decode these options. So seeks to promote port-led economic growth through cost-effective infrastructure, reflected in significant growth, and 2. So a format has been changed by UPSC. It is asking us to substantiate between statements. The statement 2 validates 1, statement 3 extends objective of 1, and multiple options are asked. So statement 1 and 3 contradicts, so that is not correct. So both is true. So Sagarmala 1 we have port-led development, 2.0 in upgrade of 1.0. So that way we have taken out option 3 and we have come up with 1 and 2. So moidums. So when we discuss environment as a subject, in environment we will be discussing about UNESCO's World Heritage Site. We always focus again same on 2 things. So recently added World Heritage Sites, last 4-5 will be very important from UPSC point of view, or there will be a tentative list with UPSC which most likely will be added in the future. So that is a perspective we give in classes when we are studying about these sites, and that is how question was asked. 43rd recently added World Heritage Site was our moidums, and these are considered only burial grounds of royal nobles. So only 3 will be the answer. Then we have a question on mangrove ecosystem. So we will study in detail in environment on mangrove, their adaptive mechanism, Government of India schemes, conservation efforts, and all problems and services provided by mangroves. Here context of the question is services provided by mangroves. So statement seems to be little generic when we are looking superficially, but when we go relatively little deep into this statement, some statements are given like freshwater, it will convert coastal ecosystem into freshwater aquaculture zones. Mangrove are salt tolerant tree species, mangroves are halophytes. So they generally grow in brackish water ecosystems, so they are not converting them into freshwater ecosystem. Based on that, we can take out other statements and we will go with the remaining statement. So directly, we have referred in detail in our classes. And Vizhinjam International Seaport, so though this was not as part of our context when we have discussed classes, but whenever we are discussing about ports, we will always discuss the importance or priority of those ports. So, and this is a line of teaching we generally do in classes where we ask students to focus on the importance of ports. So, when we are going into south, so we have already studied about Tuticorin port which reduces dependency on Sri Lankan port. Same is the case recently, Vizhinjam port was in news. This also reduces dependency on deep water ports or transshipment ports of Colombo. Okay. So this conceptual understanding based method, this was part of current affairs, that is why question was asked. And identify the river of subcontinent following information. 4 statements are given, so 1 or 2 statements will be common for all rivers. When we study about drainage system, the longitudinal profile, transverse profile, origin point, end point, important tributaries and distributaries of every river system we will study. So antecedent drainage system, most of the Himalayan rivers will be there, passing through 3 countries. So Teesta we will take out, only India and Bangladesh it will flow through. When it originates in Tibetan plateau, again it finds true for all 3 statements, but does not form distributaries. Any river which is meeting ocean will form delta and it will form distributaries. Sutlej is a tributary of Indus, so Brahmaputra and Indus will form distributaries, Sutlej will not have distributaries, it is a tributary of Indus. So that is how we will decode that option. And about those drainage system, about this concept of antecedent rivers, everything we have discussed very detail in class. And we have states and bordering states, seems to be very factual, but if we can try to assess and logically eliminate or include 1 or 2 options, answer will be relatively easy. So statement 3 is given, Sikkim is the only state that states its border with just one another Indian state. If we can able to decode or come up with any another one state which will have only border with one state, answer will be relatively easy. So based on that analysis, we will be left with 2 other options. So UP shares the highest number of states, Rajasthan longest international border. Apart from Rajasthan, we have West Bengal, largest international border, Rajasthan falls 2nd or 3rd. So only 1 will be correct. So all these countries bordering states, states bordering states, everything we have discussed in classes. So then we have question on Amur falcon. Environment part lo, Amur falcon, migration and concepts when we study in detail about this bird and its path and its stay or residences when it is migrating from one region to other region. And points are not facts. So these are all based on conceptual basis. A conceptual basis we will be able to decode answer. So this is considered permanent resident in India? No. It is a migratory bird. At times it comes to India, again it goes back after its season is retrieved in those regions. So we will take out that option based on generosity of other two options. We are going with 1 and 2. Then we have rain-fed area development. So rain-fed name itself means we should depend on very less amount of moisture and only those crops we should be able to grow. So that is the basis of rain-fed agriculture. So sustainable agriculture should be there. Encouraging monoculture. Monoculture is considered not a good practice. Multiple crops should be grown. Cropping pattern should be diverse. So it cannot encourage monoculture. Rice cultivation. Rice is also water guzzling crop. Irrigation is also not considered major irrigation, not that ideal. So based on those two generic points, we are taking out these options. We will go with increasing this integrated farming system. So rain-fed development or dryland farming, both topics are same. We would have discussed them when we study Indian geography. So then we have airy silk. So silk, Indian economy or Indian geography, economic geography, we will study different types of silks produced in India. So what is airy silk, where it is produced, how much we are producing. But here context is about a specific certification. Even if we don't know this fact, based on generosity of these statements, we can be easily able to decode this option. It will be both 1 and 2. Both are relatively generic points. And Strait of Hormuz, so we know everyone, so that Iran-Israel conflict, everything, Strait of Hormuz in news, map reading based questions UPSC very frequently it is asking. We have studied in detail about Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, all bordering countries in those regions. So Syria will be there with Mediterranean Sea, Egypt is there in Mediterranean Sea and Red Sea, Bahrain and Qatar are part of Persian Gulf, part of Strait of Hormuz, through which these countries will pass. So 1 and 3. So Indian Deep Ocean Mission, so Samudrayan project. So Samudrayan project. So this is also Indian geography. When we study about transportation systems of India or mineral resources of India, we would have studied this concept. India got permission to explore polymetallic nodules. Based on that context, question was asked. So relatively simple. Any scheme we are studying, ministry is basic, its objective, aim, target, and here are important points. If we know that this is not part of this ministry, and answer will be relatively simple. You take out one option, will be left with, you take out one, will be left with only one option, which directly gives us answer. So that is how, so mostly questions reflected from our notes. It is not the importance of these notes that we are trying to prioritize here. So the basis of these notes are again basic standard sources like NCERTs only. If you are relatively thorough with NCERTs, you have enough conceptual basis. It is very easy for us to decode all these questions. Okay, so this PDF and for comparative analysis and any other feedback or suggestions you need on how to approach and prepare this subject, I will be coming up with more videos on other conceptual details. Okay, thank you.